Hi everyone, welcome to Off the Podium. Today joining me from Berlin is Sylvia Hinz. Hi Sylvia, welcome to Off the Podium.
Hi there, hi everybody, and many thanks for inviting me and having me. And we're like a few hours apart, but made it work.
Yeah.
So greetings Europe.
Yeah. Well, I was really impressed with your career. I don't know if you know, but I'm a former flute player, although I conduct now, but I'm a former flute player, and I know you play the recorder and you play on a whole new level, and that we'll get to all of that. But let's talk about your career a little bit, where it all started and how you picked the recorder, how you started in music and all of this.
It was actually a little bit an accident because first I wanted to play the piano as a child, but my parents didn't want it. Like most parents, they say, piano is so expensive, and who knows if you want to play it next week, blah, blah. And so I wasn't allowed to play the piano, and a friend of mine, my neighbor and best friend at that time, she started to play the recorder, and so my parents suggested that I do it too. And the first year was horrible, I have to say, because I had a very bad teacher. It was a little bit on the countryside in Lower Saxony in Germany, and it was a group, I think 6 children. I imagine there were much more, but I think it was only 6. It felt like 20 or so. And so I was bored, and after a year I said to my parents, okay, I like the instrument, but I don't like the group and the teacher, so I want something else. And the teacher was, actually, he was very impressed with me. I have no idea why, but it was good for me because he suggested to my parents, okay, let her play alone or in a smaller group. And so they decided to put me in with my friend, and we had a double lesson, and it was very interesting. And after a while it became obvious that I was sort of talented on the recorder, and she was very good in painting, so we parted ways. I can't paint, so it's totally okay with me. And and I tried out the piano later, of course, because when you want to study music, and you have to play the piano if you want or not, so they force you to do it. And I have to say my parents were right, because I find the piano to be a little bit boring, because you can't do like a crescendo on one note, and it's also mechanical, and you always have this piano, this sort of dead sound with the piano. There's no, the body is attached, but it feels like a robot a little bit. Sorry to all piano players, you can play very well, I guess, but it's not my instrument. So I really have to thank my parents for this. And I started singing at a very early age too. It was some fun. I had a really great choir there. It was a guy who was specialized in Johann Sebastian Bach. He knows everything about him, and it was so great to sing all the masses and like everything Bach had ever written, and with a person who was really dedicated to Bach. And so that was a thing. Then I had this secret career a little bit with punk. When you are a teenager, there has to be something else, only classical music. So I started singing in a punk band and did a little bit of jazz too, but got bored with both. But still, I stayed with the recorder, and even playing in an orchestra and playing the oboe for a few years, I think 2 or 3 years, and trying double bass. It was all okay, and I liked it, but it never caught me really, I have to say. But the recorder did, and I think it's a little bit because the region in Lower Saxony, it was a little bit close to the Northern Sea, so there was always water and wind, and this stayed as an idea. So like the windy noise of the recorder is something I like very much, and the noises the water makes. And actually you can do the noises the water makes on the windy recorder. So it's perfect.
It's great that all of those things that you did growing up, and the punk and the jazz and all these different things, led to where you are now and have the career that you do. And it seems like you incorporate a lot of those different things in what you do now, because you truly make the recorder exciting and passionate, and you could do all these different things on the recorder that actually, I feel terrible saying, but I did not imagine what I would hear when I heard you play. So I'm really, really impressed and excited, because it truly brings a new dynamic edge to a recorder that maybe there are many players out there that do what you do, but in the US, recorder isn't thought of the way it should be and the way it is in Europe. So how about you talk a little bit about your career and what you do now, because you do bring the recorder to the 21st century in a way that I just have not experienced before.
Yeah, so I think it all started when I met my first composer, which was like, a real contemporary composer, not those guys who are doing like neo whatever, those guys I knew before. But then I actually got to work, I think I was 16 or 17, with a fellow student at the music school, and he was a wild mixture from experimental and traditional, which was very interesting, I think. And then there was a woman, and she really hated everything regarding traditional stuff, and she wanted to have every note not sounding like something which has been there before. So that was very challenging, and she always went, no, I can hear some tone I already know, so do it differently. And it was very interesting. So we did improvisation too, and it was very inspiring. And so I had to do it a little bit on the side of my normal lesson, because my teacher at that time, he was great, but he hated contemporary music. He thought it was like, I don't know what, it was noise, but in a bad way, so you can go to some builders and let them build something and it sounds the same. And so it was okay, but I played like Bach with him, and I went to work with the composers to do some special stuff, and it was really amazing. And so this collaborations were the really amazing thing which led me to study in Berlin. And I honestly have to say, it's from my field of experience, that it helped me survive academia. And because it was very much, it was very technical, and like you have to do the stuff like everybody does it. And I did it for 3 years, and then afterwards it was done. So that was not so cool. But I had these composers, and all the time was collaborating with someone. And sometimes there were like fellow students, there were drummers or piano players who wanted to check whatever you can do to your instrument without destroying it. So I say, okay, let's do that. And I think all the other pieces, I have some pieces I play that are not written for me, but they are not so much, like the one by Gloria Coates. And this is one I like very much. First, because she is a woman composer, and I think her work is really underrated, and it should be heard much more. And it's very passionate, and you can really put something in it from yourself, like it should be. So you start playing the piece, and you are growing, and the piece is growing. And then you go, with this piece at least, you go to a concert and slap it into the face of the audience. So that's the deal with her piece. And I had others like Matthias Spalinger, who is a very well-known composer in Germany or in Europe. I don't know. I think he's well known in the US too.
He is,
And I hope so. And he was writing a piece for my trio XelmYa, which is violin, cello, and recorder. And so it's basically the instrumentation of the Baroque trio sonata, but we are doing mostly contemporary stuff and pieces which are written for us. And Matthias Spalinger was willing to write a piece, and he asked me, so let's talk about it. What do you want? And he was doing a really good piece. Maybe you saw that one on YouTube too. Yeah. And it was so amazing because it starts with very, very high notes on the soprano recorder, and it's like triple overblown, and it hurts my ears, and I'm so glad and happy that I blow them away from my head. And on this video you can see it was in Chicago when we played it, and there's some guy almost headbanging to it. So he really liked it. I mean, it's amazing, but he was so close. I was like, wow, okay, I hope he's going to metal concerts, so his ears are okay with it. And all these collaborations are really very inspiring, and of course you have to practice a lot. People, I mean, you know that too, if you do contemporary music, the normal classical musicians always pity you because you have to practice. But I think it's a challenge, and it's a great thing to do because you are inventing things. You're doing it for the first time ever. You know, nobody has done that before. And on the recorder, the other special thing is, which you know, that every recorder is different. Even if you have an alto and there's an alto sitting next to it, it will react differently. So you have different multiphonics, different reaction to air pressure and stuff. And I love what I do. And every time when I go somewhere and play a concert, people are amazed. Like, this is not a recorder. What was it? What you were playing? Like the bigger ones, or even it doesn't sound like a recorder. I remember when I was in school, we played like Hänschen Klein, and it sounded so different. Of course, I hope so.
Well,
and, I love what I'm doing, I have to say that.
I mean, I'm impressed. I can't say that enough. I want to know, you're in the field and you're in Europe, so the recorder is much more respected than the US. Unfortunately, in the US, you know, they teach that in little elementary schools, and they buy a bunch of really bad recorders and give it to kids and teach them and a few little songs. But otherwise, it's not, I mean, there are players, I'm sure, but it's not to that level. And I've been to a few concerts, but it's early music, and it's not the things that you do. Who are players or organizations that have or ensembles that have a recorder that do what you do? Are there people out there that do what you do?
I think we are a really small group, though I would say that what I do, I'm very specialized, so I think they are doing different stuff, but there are other players, and the recorder scene in Germany is a little bit, there's some of what you just described. So there are like people thinking they can play the recorder and teaching it to school, elementary school children, and of course they hate the recorder. I hate the idea of the sound of it, you know, so I would hate the recorder too, and I always pity them. And but I think with the contemporary music, there are not so many recorder players. I think we are like maybe 10 or so around the world, and honestly, all of them are in Europe.
And I don't feel too bad about it, because there are only 10 in the world with billions of people. So in the academic, you talked a little bit about the academics. What can we do, especially in the US, to bring the recorder and make it more accessible and showcase everything that a recorder could do? What can we do in the university setting? You do all the concerts, so you promote the recorder and you show all the abilities and everything that a recorder could do, but what can musicians who are not recorder players help in promoting this instrument that should see more of a bright future eventually?
I think they can be a little bit more relaxed about it. So it's always, I think it's with every scene, like some people really need to put others down to feel good themselves. And so like, I don't know how it is in the US, but I guess the piano players are the kings, and then there come the violin players, and then maybe the cello players, and the singers are somewhere, and so on. And so there's a hierarchy of instruments.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, we should help each other. Yeah. So, I mean, I play in very mixed ensembles, and I don't have a straight recorder only ensemble so far, because it always interested me, even in my educational work, to mix the instrument, like with string players, with percussion, with voice, and the piano. So sometimes I hear from people that, like, how can you play with a piano? This doesn't match. So you have to play with the cembalo. And I'm like, no, I don't want to play with cembalo, because the cembalo can't do this. I mean, you know, it's a piece for recorder and piano. You can't play it on a cembalo. Sorry. And so I guess it would be nice to really embrace the possibilities and to include the recorder players in the community. So,
and you're breaking boundaries in all sorts of ways. And I read that you've done a lot of collaboration with sculptors and literature and painters and all these different things. So why don't you talk about that and how you initiate these projects? Because a lot of people have great ideas in their mind, in their head, but then when it comes to actually realizing those ideas, it doesn't come out. They don't work on it. How do you put these projects together?
Normally it's some sort of lucky coincidence, like with my painter Karola Čempić. I'm working very much with her. It's like we are meeting, I think, twice a year, and then it's like we're meeting either in my studio or in her atelier, and then I bring a recorder and reacting to everything around me. So she's showing me what she's working on, and I get inspired, and I say, this, and this, and then normally we're doing it like I'm standing in the middle of the room with the recorder of my choice, and then I'm playing, and she is drawing or painting something new, and so it's an endless exploration, basically. So I sent her the sound later, so she can go on work on the drawings she did while I was improvising to her paintings, and then she is working on the paintings, and I see them a few months later, and then we go on with that. Or we work on the same paintings too, which is sometimes the case. Another cooperation is with Aaron Bielish. He is from Houston. No, he's from Canada, but he's living in Houston. And he is a viola player, and he is also a visual artist. And he has a project, it's called iMusic. And I came across that while searching the internet for graphic scores. And I thought, oh, wow, okay, this is interesting. And so we started a year-long cooperation that I will play his scores for 1 year, maybe more, and in different settings, and in my concerts as a solo piece, or maybe chamber music, and I would also do it with students, so we can see how people react to that and what sound comes out of it. And the thing with the sculpture was, I actually don't remember how I met him. Maybe I was somewhere, I was worked by him, and then I just contact the people and ask them, hey, who are you? What are you doing? Let's cooperate. And normally they say, yes, okay, wow, what are you going to do? And some are very grateful, because when you say improvisation, sometimes it's not so clear for people what it means. So it can be boring. And if you play bad, of course, it's not that interesting. And but normally when we meet and try something out, and
well, it's
fine.
It's surprising, and it's great to see that sometimes all it takes is a little reaching out and saying, do you want to collaborate on the project? And you actually have someone who on the other side of the world or on the other side of the country might be actually interested to do it. I know you're involved in social projects. Do you mind talking about the ArtEquality project that you're involved with, or organization that you're involved with?
Yes, of course.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I read that in that you're involved with, and you're one of the founders, so it'll be great to hear about that.
Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, as a woman in contemporary music, and as a sort of, how can I put it? I'm part of a scene which is almost all the time mostly a boys' club. And it has been like that for all my life. And I'm a conductor also, so you can imagine how much fun that is sometimes. And I met Doron Paris, who is the other part of ArtEquality. We met in 2014. It was through sheer luck again on the internet, where she put out a call for some performance she wanted to do somewhere. And so I reacted to that call and told her, hey, it sounds great, and let's do that. So a feminist project. And then she said, yeah, but I'm in Dublin. And I was like, okay, so anyway, let's meet. And then she wrote this piece in the Lion's Den, and we performed it in Dublin. It was raining and there were people around, but it was really, it was very intense and it was really cool. So we decided to work together. We did more performances in Berlin and in London. It was at Goldsmiths. That was really interesting because the people there had no idea what we were doing, and they were sort of shocked. Because it was a really feminist performance with screaming and everything. It was the theme is about the Catholic Church in Ireland, which is a really horrible place to be a woman, and they have many weird things going on over there. Like they had this thing called Magdalene laundries, where they put the children, which even women who got raped were not allowed to abort, and those children were forced to labor, and when they died they were not buried on a graveyard because it was not a really person, so in the eyes of the church, and so they put them in mass graves. And that all that came into light during the last 10 years, I think, and other horrible things. And so this was some sort of reaction to that, and it's really intense. So I was the good soul of a dancer, and the dancer was basically the victim of all this. We were wearing black, and the other participants of the performance were wearing white, and they were sort of the church and didn't do anything to help. So it was really intense, not only the music but also the actor, and the performance of the dancer was really incredible. It was moving, very moving. And ArtEquality is something we decided to do, I think it was in January 2016, that we wanted to help other artists to get some sort of gender neutrality and equality through art, and whatever art they choose. And so we did workshops so far, and the next one we are doing will be during the first ever Feminist Festival in Banja Luka in Bosnia. And we were leading a workshop there, and it's called Finding Your Voice. And the thing with the voice is that women are constantly told by society right after birth, like when they start to talk, that they have to shut up, that they have to be quiet, and that they have to talk softly. So you always have this, which is okay, but our voices need to be heard, especially in a world like this where there's so much violence. And I mean, in the US you have this stuff going on at the universities, and this rape culture all over the world. And so we are trying to reach, or we are fighting for equality, and we want our voices to be heard, and we try to empower the other 50% of the population. And this is, I want to make this very clear, it's not about turning down men or taking away whatever it is from men. It's just about working together.
That's very important.
So basically, while we are empowering women, we are empowering men also.
It's great to see that people like you inspire others who sometimes don't have a voice or come from places that it's tough to express yourself. They have role models like you who do all these different things through arts and different organizations and collaborations to empower people and inspire people. You know, music world, as you described, you know, most of the conductors are male, and it's still very dominant. But would you say the music world, and I know it's a tough question, but would you say that the music world is maybe a little bit further ahead than some of the other fields like the sciences and engineering and all these? Because from what I understand, it's becoming more and more open, especially in the music field. Do you sense that, or would you say it's still pretty tough out there? Because I don't know. I come from a different background and from a different country, so I just want to know your perspective on this.
Yeah, yes, I agree. So I think all this constant, some feel it's constant nagging, but raising awareness and putting like female conductors, putting female. They don't like it when I say it, but I will say it, female and women composers into the spotlight, and of course the performers too, and don't forget women in tech like DJs, and I'm also a part of a network, it's called Female Pressure, and there it is, it's some sort of a circle where there are women doing electronic music, and this is something. We always talk about, okay, there's this and this festival. So sometimes we're counting how many males are there, how many females are there. And if you have a 50-50 ratio, it's really not often, but we always like party after that. So I guess it's getting better, but it's really still, we always have to be alert. Because it's not something which is regulating itself. And I mean, you know how it is, like the boys club is a very good network. So I know this guy from there and there, let's invite him. And I studied with him and I studied with her. She will have children, so anyway, let's ask him. So he will be free. And that's amazing, some sort of, but I guess yes, I can tell a very positive story about a festival. I was playing a recital in March. It was in Edmonton in Canada. And there it was really cool because the both artistic directors, Ian and Chenoa, they were really, really, really after it, that there was a 50-50 ratio at least with women composers. And that there were composers from Canada also. And it worked. It was totally no problem. And they just, I mean, sometimes people tell me, but we don't have a piece from a women composer. Then find one. They are there. So what's the problem? Okay? It's a little bit more work maybe. Or I can ask, why don't you have a piece by a woman? So, you know. And it works. And so they told me that when people apply and they basically like the idea or they like the ensemble and they hand in a proposal where are only male names, then they say, okay, so you have to change one or two of the pieces at least. And I like that very much.
Well, I was at an event, and I won't say any names. I don't want to get anyone in trouble. But I was at an event, and the director of the program was introducing all the different pieces. It was kind of a symposium, and he introduced one of the pieces and said, well, this piece, it's great and it's amazing, and in my opinion, she will be one of the best female composers down the road. And speaking to the woman afterwards, she was very upset. She said, I don't want it to be described as a female piece. I was hoping the person would introduce it as just a great piece, or if he wants to say some great things about the piece, he could have just said great composer. I didn't want that female in there. So what would you say about that? Are you on the same page?
Absolutely, yes. I would have been angry too, because in that in that relation, it sounds like something not good. Yeah. So, like you're like a token or something.
You're a subcategory.
You know? So like a quota. Yeah. So you have to be there, and so here she is. She's a woman, and the piece is okay. So let's get over with it. Something like that. Yeah. And I don't like that. I mean, so I think we have to have those rules, and maybe we have to have quotas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, why not? But when we agree on that, there's no need to put your finger on it, you know, the whole time. Yeah. Like, so this is the female composer. Whoa, yay, we have a female composer, you know, like this. And with performers too. So why? Yeah.
And you talked about the 50-50, and this is something that's come up. And, you know, I've gone through all these degrees at various colleges in the U.S., and people talk about different things. And what comes up about the 50-50 that you were bringing up is, from various people that I've heard this, they say that if more females applied, as many females applied as men, then maybe it would have been 50-50. But say 100 males apply and only 20 females, how can you make it a 50-50 equal situation where there's obviously more men applying for these? What would you say to those people?
I mean, I don't think they will have like 50 pieces in that. And I mean, then they have to regard the pieces of the women equally. I mean, when there are only 20 women applying and they need 5 pieces, then there will be 5 pieces out of the 20. End of story. And of course they have to encourage the women. And when you know that there are festivals like not turning your application down because your name is Maria, then of course more will apply. And so many women are frustrated, of course. They know sometimes, you know that too, there are those social experiments where women change their names from Maria to Marius, and then it works. So it can't be really the piece then, you know. And I mean, if there is a pool, there are always people, there are mostly, I guess, more males applying for things, but we have to see it, the problem, we have to relate it to society, of course. Why is it that women can start their career much later? And they have the problem that this ageism, like when you have to be 30 to be considered to some contests, and that's another problem. So when you are finished with your family building, when you're 32 and start composing, it's over for you basically. So nobody will notice your work, and then of course you can't apply to many things because you haven't had pieces performed during the last 5 years or so. And I guess there are so many aspects in that, and I would say that to those people. So make it easier for women to be composers. Let them be composers if they want to, and don't let them be composer, child carer, and like working for their husbands or whatever partners and stuff. Be open. I think be open and embrace the possibilities. That's the main problem.
All of those are great, and it's great to see someone so passionate about all of the things that you do or are involved with. Going off to a different topic now, but I wanted to know, you've performed in so many places and you bring a new perspective on playing the recorder and just music in general. What are some interesting venues that you've played at, or interesting experiences that you've had playing in different parts of the world. So what are some that come to mind?
Yeah, so I think the first one I really loved. I mean, you're a conductor too, so you will agree with me, was conducting in the Philharmonie in Berlin. Mm-hmm. This was really cool. And I had a piece, it was with a students ensemble, and it was a piece, Counting My Numberless Fingers, written by a young British composer. He's also a conductor, so it was really funny to have him sitting behind me and feeling his burning eyes in my back while I conducted this piece. And this was a thing that was really, really great. And I'm one of those conductors who are really picky about the pieces, but this one was really fun and I loved to do it. And like performing with the recorder, I think really great places are in Mexico. Yeah, I really love to perform in Mexico. It's partly because they have this great halls like the Palacio de Bellas Artes, and but they have those passionate people over there. The audience, they are really I think they have at least two hearts or so. Yeah, I think so. They have one heart which is completely for music, and they are so open, and they come to you, they talk to you, and thank you so much for your performance. You changed my life. I will forever dream about this night and stuff like that. And you're really like, whoa, okay, this would never happen in Germany, never. Yeah. I mean, maybe you get a handshake and a smile, but that's it. Yeah.
It's very passionate people.
Yeah, this is really cool. And then we were in a place, I think the name was Ciudad Valles, and we were there with a quartet. We played, in that occasion, we actually played The Art of Fugue by Bach, and with recorder, bass, clarinet, violin, and cello. And we opened for the festival, Los Fundadores. It was in San Luis Potosí, and then they decided to bring us in some little town somewhere in the hills. And the setting was really, it was very inspiring. There was like 150% humidity, and it was like 50 degrees hot, so perfect weather. And we played in some sort of, I think it was a theater stage or a cinema or both, and the audience, it was like a rock concert with Bach. So the audience was, I think, maybe between 9 and 18, some maybe a little bit older, 20 or so, and they were like shouting like "Way, wah, Bach," and stuff. It was amazing. So every time the last chord of the fugue came on, and they were like, it was amazing. So they were really enjoying this. And later I was told that they were like people, they had never heard Bach before, of course. I mean, in Mexico, and there were choirs from the local schools and students, ensembles and stuff. It was so amazing. And some brought their parents, and the place was packed. And it was amazing. That was really cool. And I think the solo recitals, there are so many places. I mean, I played at a festival in Spain. I played in the streets because it was part of the idea that they use the heritage of the city, some sort, as a concert space. So it was very nice too. So they just called the police where there were no cars allowed for the night, and then policeman came, said, so now you can play, and then you play. it's totally cool. Or Buenos Aires is a very nice place too, of course. And I think, but I guess this conducting thing in the Philharmonie and playing in Mexico.
Well, so many questions I have. Actually, two things.
Yes.
The Fat Concert series that you have, a few words about that, and also the calls for scores. You're always at the edge of trying to get a lot of new music, and you perform a lot of new music, and you have the Call for Scores, which I saw. So a little bit about both of those projects.
Yeah. So this with the Call for Scores was an idea which evolved some time last year. I think I met Dario and Francesco in 2015 when I did a masterclass for composers in Sicily, and it was with Mexican composer Javier Torres Maldonado, and it was very funny, and there were like 10 young composers, and I told them about the recorder and the extended techniques and everything. And so they brought their draft the next day, and we tried something out, and I said, no, this is not possible, and this is for a piano, not for a recorder or so. And then the next day we fought again and stuff. Yeah. And afterwards I thought, okay, so maybe I would get 10 times the same piece now, because they were all present when I did the presentation. But it was really cool. I mean, everybody was doing a really, really different piece and very, very own style. And it's amazing. So I have 7 solo pieces so far, and not 2 are at least comparable. So it's really, really cool. Yeah. And then I think, yes, sometime last year I premiered the solo piece done by Francesco Lipari. And then we were joking about doing a symposium and have more possibility to encourage women and female composers as performers too, especially in Sicily, which is a sort of macho place too. And he was like, yeah, let's do that. Okay, excellent. And we decided then to call for scores, so everybody can do whatever they want. And we have the instrumentation. This time XelmYa is working for violin, recorder, and oboe, and corde anglaise also. And this is a really, really cool instrumentation too. And I know Friederike Börnchen, I have known her for quite a while, and we are working together, and so we it's really amazing, this sound. And and we are doing this in Sicily in June and in Berlin in July. And let's see.
Yeah, it's great.
I hope there will be many, many, many great pieces coming along. And I know that Mark Yates, who you had on your show last time, he wrote me yesterday that he's seen this call so much now that he decided, even if he has no time, to write a piece for it.
You're kidding.
So, like, to get over with it. Which is really cool. So I can look forward to that one too. And asynchronous. So it will be great.
Well, I'm happy Mark recommended you, because this has been a great conversation. Lastly, there are 2 questions I switch off between. One is what you do outside of music, and one, what advice would you give as an accomplished musician to young up-and-coming musicians? Life advice, I guess, or music advice.
Yeah, I think there is basically no really outside of music for me, I have to say, because I'm sort of living music. I don't know how to put it the other way. Yeah, it's like that. And I think many people say that try to catch your dream and try to live your dream. And everything else will somehow evolve from that. And I have the feeling that many of the young performers, musicians, conductors, and composers too, or artists in general, are under huge pressure. Like, you have to have much money when you're, I don't know what, 13 years old, and you have to have your competitions won and your awards and something. And that is not so important. Be happy with what you do is much more important. And if you feel like you should compose, and if you feel like you should help people, try to combine it in some way. Like, you can compose pieces and play them in a community for elderly people, or for disabled people, or you can do projects with other artists and broadcast them to countries where they can't do this or can't see stuff like this. And what I advise people to is go places and learn other languages. Because it's really fun. I mean, in Europe or in Germany, you learn at least 3 languages besides German. And that is really cool. I mean, you don't have to like it, but at least you can look behind the curtain a little bit. So for me, it was like learning French. I had to do it for 4 years. It was really horrible, and I totally didn't like it. I loved to learn Latin, and I even started to learn Russian for 2 years. And I really love it because you always learn about other people then too. And when you go to a place and you are able to listen to the people and maybe understand a little bit, and they always like you more when you can talk to them in their language, even if it sounds funny.
True. 100%.
And if your music is some sort of international language or universal language, say, and I guess that's sort of true, but anyway, you have to be empathic and you have to listen. Listening is a very, very important thing. And like this, I have an international ensemble, which is it's called UMBRATONO, and it's me with my bass clarinet player Antonio Rosales from Mexico, and we play with other people. And it was when I had these experiences and with the UMBRATONO ensemble in Mexico first. It was very interesting. And so we talk, of course, and we make plans. And in this year, again, we are able to play another UMBRATONO concert, or it's a mixed UMBRATONO, because this time it's like with 3 women from Germany he has to deal. And so it will be very interesting, and I really like that. And I think meeting him and working with him, of course, has turned my perspective too on many things. And is working together, maybe building communities, yes, but let outsiders in too, and always be open.
Sylvia, thank you so much for joining me. It's been great. Do you have anything else you want to share with us as we come to the end now?
Let me think. No, I think I have said everything. But I have a special hashtag on Twitter. It's #RecorderPower.
I saw that.
And, yes. And there's another woman trying to educate the world about the recorder. Her name is Sarah Jeffrey, and she's from Britain, residing in Amsterdam, I think. And she has Team Recorder, and we are both working on like turning people's head regarding the recorder. And the last thing I want to say, a little bit of bragging, is that I also play in a metal band. And this metal band is called Coma Cluster Void. And there, actually, I'm also playing the recorder and the double bass recorder, those Petzold things which look like a monolith. And but I'm also playing the bass there. So you can do very much things, and you can be very international if you want to. You can, of course, you can be a hermit and live somewhere on a mountain if you want to, but do whatever your heart is telling you.
That's great advice, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope that you come back and we could have, discuss further about various things, because we could go on forever. And I know I'm glad you talked about your ensemble, because that was on one of the things on my list, and I'm glad you got to it yourself at the end there. Sylvia Hinz, follow her on Facebook, Twitter, and all those different things. I'll have your website linked to this. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for asking. And it was very, very nice talking to you. I hope we can do it like Always.
Yeah, we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen. It's a continuous thing, and I actually Mark Eats. He's gonna be on later, maybe at the end of the summer. So have him back on too. Maybe we could have both of you on at the same time.
Oh, that would be fun. But I suppose you will not be able to ask any question then.
Well, it's great. Thank you so much for joining me, and see you soon.
Thank you so much.